Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Kelly and Erinn Show. We are so thrilled that you are joining us today. Today's episode is going to be very different, and we are going to dig much deeper into something that's just a little bit more personal. Erin's sharing something that she's never really shared before, at least not publicly. And it's going to be a really sweet conversation about her journey through anxiety, through panic attacks, and how she found her way back really to peace and trust and really recentering herself with herself, finding who Erin really is. And as her mom, I watched Erin navigate this, and it was so difficult for me. I watched the fear come up in her. I felt her growth. I saw her evolution. I saw her expansion into growing through this. It was such an amazing thing to see. And now that I know what she's sharing today will speak to really so many of you who have really felt like out of control and felt that you just couldn't see your way through this. So we're really hoping that this episode is going to mean so much to you guys today. So Erin, let's go. Let's talk about this.
Let's jump on into it. And what a nice change to have Kelly doing the intro in our podcast. We haven't had this happen yet. I
Well,
love it.
I had to do it sooner or later, and I really want this message that is coming through us today because there's so many of you that are experiencing debilitating anxiety, debilitating panic attacks, debilitating, emotional trauma that is just, stopping you from living your best life. And Erin, we really want to hear how it got started.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you introed that so beautifully. And really for me, I just really want to share what I've experienced because I know that there are so many people that experience anxiety and varying degrees of panic attacks. And our world is just so crazy and so out of control that you can sometimes feel like you're alone experiencing this kind of stuff. And I'll just say that I've over the last 10, 15 years have experienced debilitating panic attacks to the point where when it was at the peak for me, I was probably having 10 or 15 panic attacks a day. So you can only imagine the level of cortisol and adrenaline running through my veins and just how intense and how overwhelming it could really be. Back when it kind of really started for me and the first panic attack that I really ever had, I was 21 years old and I was driving from we had Kind Food at the time and I was driving from Kind Food back to university. I went to McMaster and I was on the highway and I had what I believe would be my first panic attack. And I was like, what the heck is happening to my body right now? My palms went all sweaty. My heart started to race. My eyes got all black. Like I felt like I was going to faint. And I completely freaked myself out. And I was like, what the heck is happening right now? And to the point that that panic attack set such an imprint within me that I then began to not trust being by myself, not trusting being alone and feeling safe within myself because I felt like it was going to bring on another panic attack. And it's a crazy feeling for people that have experienced it to that level. You really feel like you're alone and that you're going crazy because you're like, how can anybody else be experiencing this? And for me, that's kind of where it started. I think looking back on it now, I think there was a really big degree of overwhelm for me. We had Kind Food at the time. We were doing a huge event that weekend. I was starting my fourth year of university. I was stressed out. I was overwhelmed. So there was a culmination of a lot of things that were happening in my life at that time that basically just set it off into a whole other trajectory for me. But that was kind of the starting point of it. And throughout I would say the next 5, 6 years. I moved through it. I found some healing modalities, which we can get into in a bit, but like meditation, yoga, breath work, all that kind of stuff. And things got better per se. And for me, then going through 2020, that was a huge catalyst for my anxiety and my panic to go through the freaking roof. I mean, Mom, you and I were very publicly canceled, very publicly shamed, all of this kind of stuff. And that set me into a whole other level of panic attacks and anxiety and just this feeling of being out of control. And I hope I'm explaining all of this correctly and properly. And
I wanna interrupt for a
yeah,
second.
please.
I wanna back it up just a slight bit because so you believe that your first panic attack was 2011,
Yeah.
so you were 21, we had kind food, you were in going into your 4th year of university, but when you had that panic attack, like, let's talk about this because, you know, you had the tight chest, you said, you know, your heart was racing, you could feel like a blackout coming, your palms were sweaty. But do you remember what your thought was in that moment in time? Like, to actually pause with this. So, what was like, even reflecting on it now, do
Mhm.
you have an idea of, like, with more self-awareness, like, what it was that was flowing through you at that time? Like, feeling less than? Like, it's one thing to feel overwhelmed, but did you feel like you maybe weren't able to take on all of this stuff? Like, were you shaming yourself about something? I'm just, you know, like, where were you at in that
Yep.
score box moment in time?
I think that there's always been an element for me, being an only child, of feeling this need to be it all and to be perfect. And this is in my own mind, right? Being perfect, not showing any flaws. That might be a little bit excessive, but just looking like I have it all together all the time.
Well, I wanna expand on that again because you just said something very important. So, you know, as you were raised and being an only child, your dad and I splitting up when you were a year and a half, you were 18 months old, so you never knew us together. So there was just these 2 different families then that you were the only child, the only niece, nephew, the only cousin, like, there was nothing else going on, you know? You the only grandchild, you were like so there was this there was this pressure on you to be the golden child.
Mhm.
However that
Mhm.
was bestowed upon you,
Totally.
that's another issue
Mhm.
or another situation, but it was just the resulting effect was Aaron feeling an extraordinary amount of pressure being the golden child. So go ahead, keep
Yeah.
talking.
No, totally. You're absolutely right, and I think that that level of pressure, it just came out. Like, it just came out in what would be my first panic attack in 2011, a culmination of all of these things to that present moment, which was really.
So do you think though that that was the thought going through you then in right, in 2011 when you actually, um, were feeling the overwhelm going, "Why am I taking all this on?" Kind food, working almost like basically full-time hours there, 4th year university. I mean, I don't know, you know, we can look back at it now and you really weren't really enjoying the courses that you were taking. Maybe there was this sacrifice that you were making. Maybe there was this element of, "Am I really living my true joy to my heart? Am I
Totally.
really happy right now?"
It's, going to university, and I think I've said this before in other podcasts. It's like, I went to university. I can do really well in university. I can write, great essays. I can memorize things. I can do great exams. Like, I do well in school. But I remember just thinking to myself, like, really? Like, is this really what, like, the purpose of life is right now?
That's what it's all about.
This kind of feels like fingernails on a chalkboard. Like, I don't want to be this like hamster wheel kind of person. So that definitely could have played a role in it for sure for me. Absolutely.
Because this is what happens now with now it's been, like, say, 14 years. So it's 25 now, so 14 years since that first episode. But these episodes don't just happen all of a sudden, you know? There would be some lingering and underlying emotional things that haven't been unraveled yet, and all of a sudden, you hit that breaking point, right? So the breaking point is like going, "What the fuck? Like, have I just been stuffing all of this shit down for the last 20 years?" Whatever it was.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, then it manifested into panic attacks and you know, full blown anxiety. I want to say what I saw as a mom. And so in 2011, a friend came to work one day to Kind Food one day, and she walked in, and I went, "Who the frig are you?" Like, I looked at you, and I hadn't seen you for maybe like 5 days or something. Like, I think it was exam time or whatever it was. Anyway, so I hadn't seen you for a few days, and You walked in and you were emaciated. I went, she looks like she should be coming from, a third world country in Africa because your eyes were bulging and you were just drawn. And I went, we're going to the hospital right now. Because then you had just finally told me, because you didn't even tell me on the phone, you had told me that you weren't able to eat anything. And anything you were eating was coming out this way or coming out the other way. Like you weren't able to keep anything in your body. You were that anxiety riddled.
Yeah. And I think, yes, absolutely. All of that is definitely true. And it's like, for people that haven't experienced it, you can say, "Oh, someone has anxiety. Okay, like get over yourself, get over yourself." But when you're in that state, and I can say it now looking how I don't even want to say healed because that's the wrong word to use, but just being
No, it's
able to
greater awareness. It's an
yeah.
awareness.
Like I've moved through, like I'm on the other side of it, that like when you're in that state, you feel frozen. Like you feel unsafe. You feel you're constantly worried about the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? Oh my gosh, I'm not safe. Oh my gosh, this is going to happen. Oh my gosh, the world's going to end. There's this thing where your mind plays tricks on you. And one little thing, like someone could perceive one little thing of me having a panic attack on the highway. Someone's like, "Oh, like whatever, just like get over it." But it's this imprint that gets put into your mind that then gets compounded every single time. And then you become scared that you're going to have another panic attack, which then brings on another panic attack. And
It's it's a trauma imprint.
if you can't get your mind, if you can't get through that, and if you can't work your way through it, it just can become worse and worse and worse to the point where you have chronic panic attacks all the time, and anything and everything can really set you off. So for me, it got to the point where I couldn't drive anywhere. It was really hard for me to be by myself. And this is me being super vulnerable with you guys because you guys can see all this stuff that like we have this perfect business and this perfect life and this perfect relationship and all of this stuff. But there's like people go through things that are very, very intense and very real for them. And for me, I just want anyone that's experienced this kind of stuff to feel like they're not alone because I know how freaking intense it can be and how scary it can be when you're like, I can't do this anymore. This is way, way too much for me. But I did want to talk, Mom. I wanted to talk kind of about like the peak of all of this for me. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but during
Can I
COVID.
wanna add so keep your train of thought there for the peak of it, because I wanna go back to 2011 too, that when I said we were going to the hospital, that was a peak. It's like, I think you've had a few peaks. So
Mhm.
that was one peak
Yeah.
of, um, dragging you to the hospital, and as a mom, to see my daughter there in the hospital with an IV in her arm to get some nutrition into her body and finally allow her skin to fill out again and the bulging of her eyes to stop because she was really starving to death. It was that bad. And of course, then, the hospital says, medication's an option and all these things. But anyways, we're gonna talk about all this because it's very important. So let's talk about the peaks of the storms, and I want to do this when you actually felt like you were losing, like, your body and your soul and just not connected to Aaron any
Yeah,
longer. So let's talk about your peaks.
for sure. And like I said just before this was 2020, 2021, and
Mhm.
2022 were very intense years overall, collectively, for the collective consciousness overall, right? Between COVID and cancel culture and just massive world things that were going on. Um, Caused a lot of additional anxiety for myself. And from a personal level, when you and I were very publicly canceled, almost lost our business, almost lost everything that we had worked for a decade plus, was the most difficult thing I've ever had to move through in my life, especially because of all the lies and all the nonsense that was shared about us online. That was really, really hard for me to move through because it was like, but wait, like none of this stuff is true. But then it was just, it was a lot. Like it was a lot of emotional intensity during that time. This was in 2021. Michael and I were like, you know what? Like we don't want to be in the city. Like we don't want to be living in this intensity. It didn't feel safe. It didn't feel grounded. It didn't feel good for us. So that's when we decided to take the move and to move up north, which we can go
So
into.
so let's grab some timelines here. In 2020, March 2020, we March 17th, 2020, we closed down Kelly's Bake Shop for 6 weeks, and in that time period, we were getting canceled on Twitter. We're getting for standing up for small businesses and not wanting small businesses to shut down when Walmart and Costco and Home Depot all got to stay open. We were big advocates for freedom. We were big advocates for many things, and then BLM hit in June of 2020, and we got nailed for that, and then all of a sudden we were racist, and we were homophobic, and we were transphobic, and we were all the phobics. We were all the things for a completely unjust, verified bunch of bullshit. And I watched you because as a mom, and you moms out there are listening to this, know that if there's slings and arrows to come, give them to me because I'm going to stand in the line of fire for my kid any day. And to watch my daughter go through what she went through when we got canceled was so hard for me on top of all like the whole canceling thing that was going on from the business, losing the like about to lose the business, all the things that were happening to us. But then to watch my daughter suffer, and there were times that I know that I was feeling suicidal, that I could only imagine because I'm not in Erin's body, but with compassion and empathy for my kid. I love her. I know what's going through her because she's mine, you know? We relate to the same thing. I was going to do whatever it took to take all the slings and arrows to protect her and insulate her from it. And what I saw her go through, which was so unjust. I don't know another human on this planet like my kid that is so full of love and peace frequency. She lives at 600 or 700 in the scale of consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins. Like that's my kid's life. And for her to be dragged into that and was just so disgusting. And I had a very hard time with that, watching her collapse and relapse through everything that she had already gone through for 10 years before that, like your peak, and then how you found your way around that to, like, let's call it a turning point for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because I was reflecting on this today before we recorded this, and moving up north was a massive turning point for me, but it was actually very intimidating for me as well. Because for those of you guys that don't know, Kelly, me, Michael, we're like all about 2 hours, give or take, north of where our businesses are in the GTA. And at that point in 2021, I was having a lot of difficulty driving by myself. But we bought a house 2 hours north of the city. So, okay, what was I going to do there, right? But there was just this deep inner calling for me to be grounded, to be just to get away from the city and to just do whatever it took to actually push push myself in a way to move through this anxiety to get to the other point of it, right? To get
You were
to
ripping that Band-Aid off,
I
girlfriend.
100% was ripping that Band-Aid off, which is crazy when I reflect back on it because I'm like, "Oh, wait, I was actually really
Great.
struggling back then." And a
But
lot
you
of
were so brave to do that,
yeah,
right? So you were struggling in a very deep, dark way because we hadn't recovered from 2020. We were still being canceled in 2021, guys. Like, this went on forever. Cancel
totally.
culture lives forever.
Yeah, yeah. Now
But
it's kind of turned a little bit, but
yeah,
here we are.
it has. And you were so brave to do that. And I remember going like, "Are you sure you wanna do this?" And then, I was doing a lot of the driving, a lot of times, but I didn't wanna be the crutch for Erin, but Erin knew that. Again, I wanna talk about because I know we're gonna get to it. So I'm just giving a prompt of what was a day in the life like for Erin to wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I have to go to the business and I'm 2 hours north." What are the thoughts that go through your mind to have allowed yourself and enabled yourself to get behind that steering wheel?
So, it wasn't just as easy as just flipping a switch for me. There was a lot of inner work, there was a lot of healing that I really chose to do because at a certain point, I got sick of my own bullshit. I got sick of feeling this way and I was like, I'm not living another day like this. Like, no, this is not happening anymore. I want to live my absolute best life. I was sick of feeling exhausted and drained because for those of you, who have burned through your adrenals, that was me. I was like constantly depleted, constantly exhausted because my cortisol levels were through the roof all the time because of experiencing panic attacks 24/7. For me, it was tapping into my meditation practice a lot. It was seeing a therapist who helped me incredibly. It was joining different courses of people that have experienced this exact same thing that I've experienced. So I felt like I wasn't alone in it. And it was doing really hard work to, even if it was, driving 5 kilometers down the road and then turning around and driving home, or, driving halfway and then knowing I could call Michael or call you or something if I needed something and then turn around and come home. Like, it was having these like safety nets, but also at a certain point, I was like, you just have to learn how to trust yourself again. For people that have never experienced anxiety, this might sound crazy. And you're like, really? Like, you actually couldn't drive by yourself? And it's like, yeah, I actually could not. And there are so many people that experience this kind of anxieties and fears and stuff because you feel unsafe being by yourself because your mind has tricked you into believing that you're not safe on your own. And that's something that I really worked through and moved through myself to then be able to get to the other side now in 2025. For the last maybe 2, 3 years, I have been a completely different person. Like, I have had no issue with driving any time of day, any weather conditions. For those of you that know, up north here in Grey County, our winters can be insane. So driving in the snow, driving at anything, I feel very much at peace and very much at ease. And I want to say too, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, Mom, but there could have been so many opportunities in the last 10, 15 years for myself to medicate myself and to move through this fear, anxiety, panic with certain types of pharmaceuticals. And again, no judgment to anyone that is on pharmaceuticals, is on medication at all. But for me, it wasn't a choice. It wasn't something that I was even considering because I knew that I could heal myself and I knew that I could rewire my brain to move through this and to get to the other side. So that's really, really, yeah, something I wanted to share as well too, that this was all something that I did myself without any outside things in my head.
And I love that because when like, what jumped out at me was when you're saying that, you called yourself out and you were just sick of your bullshit, and because I could look at it and go, "God, why is Erin, like, torturing herself and, like, friggin' figure it out," you know what I mean? I mean, I would never say that, of course, but, there's an element of thinking that because after a while, it was, like, years going on, "No, Erin can't drive. Oh my god, Erin's not driving," and then it was a big thing for me to pick up that slack from too, right? So, again, moms do those things because we do whatever it takes. But I love that because I think that that was a turning point for you was when you called yourself out for this illusion that you were painting of yourself and allowing this trauma imprint and this silly narrative. Now, as you look back at it, was very, very real though at the time. It wasn't silly then. It was silly now when you look back at it and going, why would I want to shortchange my life?
Yes.
Why would I wanna shortchange my experience? Why would I not wanna just go, "Heck, I'm gonna get in the car myself, I'm putting on a podcast, I'm gonna drive down." I don't wanna drive with my mom all the time, or I don't wanna
Exactly.
drive with Michael all the time, or whatever. I want my freedom back. When you brought up the point about rewiring your brain is really significant because that's what it is. It's the firing, the neurosynaptic, firing of how you are wired, right? And that trauma imprint went there, for example, and there was a wire happened then, like an actual freezing of a connective message got put there in your head. And it's like it stayed there, it stayed there. You had to rewire it. But where did we go in 19, which was very helpful as learning tools to rewire your brain.
Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, right on. So we spent a week there. Yeah, we did a week retreat with him and and he was quite magical with explaining how we have all wired our brains to become the personality, right? And the more we do focus on the same thing all the time, it's going to get a more solid connection. We have to break pattern. And that's what I've said all along is that's how I live my life is what can I do different today? What's different? Like, is it getting up at 4 in the morning? Is it doing meditation at 5 o'clock? Is it making sure I go for a walk every single morning? Is it stop thinking about that person or whatever it is, right? To rewire your thinking. Erin, you were so successful at this. And I really want to celebrate you on this. In 2021 was such a big turning point, but I do believe it was like you going to Yandara in 2016, I think.
S Yeah. That's why I wanted to also preface all of this with just saying that, like, that first panic attack that I had was in 2011, but it's not like between 2011 and 2021, 2022, I was just debilitated and with anxiety and panic all the time. I did a lot of inner work and a lot of inner healing in 2016. I went to the Andara Yoga Institute in Baja, Mexico. I got my yoga teacher certification training down there. Incredible experience. Went there by myself. That was really, really big for me to go there by myself. Then in 2017, I went on a solo trip. I went to Costa Rica by myself. That was really freaking big for me to go by myself doing that kind of stuff. And I think like there were like it's like life, right? Life is not this constant linear path. There's these ebbs and flows and these valleys and peaks and valleys within life. And I think that if you can continue to learn from those experiences that you have and really, just continue to evolve as a human being, I think that's really the point and the goal of life is this whole journey that we're on. It's not just to say, "Oh, I'm free of this fear. Oh, I'm free of anxiety. Now everything's good." It's like, no, you like it's this ebb and flow constantly. So I did have this beautiful healing time of getting my yoga teacher training, all that stuff. And then 2020 hit and it was like, boom, okay, you still got some healing to do. You still have some shadows to work through and some things to move through. And then moving out to the country and okay, cool, you're really gonna rip this freaking band-aid off now, right? And then like going through that anxiety and fear within myself. And then now I don't think I've had a panic attack in 2, 3 years, maybe. Like late 2022, early 2023 would probably be the last time I have experienced it. And like it's a very beautiful thing. So if anyone is experiencing this themselves right now, just know that you can get to the other side of it. And I know in my heart of hearts how intense, how debilitating, how overwhelming, and how like you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But trust me, it's there. It's 100% there. And I want to say this before I forget that if anyone has any questions or they want to share anything with me, feel free to like DM me on Instagram directly. Like I'm more than happy to chat with you guys. I'm just at Erin Weatherby on Instagram. And if anyone wants to share or have any advice or get any advice from me, please, by all means, I would love to connect.
Also, I want to add that you did an online course
Hmm.
and you actually did because it was the COVID time.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that you couldn't meet face to face. So you did like some therapy with a girl on Zoom calls and like these things were like all little nudges and imprints because what I believe is that there's this bringing awareness, right? Life is all about an awareness and that's how we change. And you created such beautiful self-awareness as to what was affecting you, the words that were going through your head, the outside boundaries that had to be put up, all the things that you had to do that I think that you navigated it so successfully that you changed your inner world. And it's our outer world, how we experience life, is a direct reflection of our inner world, our inner thoughts, our inner patterns, all that we were doing. And this is what comes in the outside. And I just wanted to say that that like you were brave enough to go to Costa Rica. You were brave enough to do Yandara by yourself, all these trips. And it was so hard for you. I remember this to get on an airplane by yourself and be with yourself alone. No other thoughts, no other people, no other distractions, no Michael, no nothing, no mom, like you dealt with yourself and you kicked your own ass.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And yeah, it's just it's been it's been a journey for sure. And again, like I said, it's like life is a journey, and just surrendering to that. I think that that was a really just a really big observation for me, and just an opportunity for healing was just trusting and just surrendering and just coming back to myself. I think that was the biggest thing, is just learning how to trust myself and being like, okay, I'm safe right now in this moment. Everything's good. I'm good. I'm driving on the road right now. Like, everything's okay. I'm totally fine right now. Okay, I got 20 more minutes to get to Burlington. Perfect. Like, just like trusting yourself and just knowing that you're going to move through it and everything's okay. Like, just really, really trusting.
What I've seen in you really is incredible strength, and not in just fighting the anxiety part of it and like grappling with that, but it's the strength to just create this undeniable like love for yourself, and as you're saying, to the trusting of yourself. It's so any of us that's struggling out there, is it's really because we've become disconnected from this. We become disconnected from our soul, and we think somehow the outside world's gonna save us, or some outside, you know, thing, person, idea, whatever is out there gonna save us, but it's all comes inside. This is our healing. This is our transformation. This is only thing that's real. This is the message that I believe that people need to hear, is this whole conversation of like real, raw, vulnerable, like just authentically what we've gone through for the last 14 years as a mom and daughter. On top of everything else, people see the business and all the shit that we do and all the things. Kelly Erinn Show, let's do this too. But in behind the scenes, let's do all this. Behind it all is real people, or are real people. And it's not all frilly fun stuff. We've had to dig ourselves, literally dig out of the trenches to survive and be here today to actually show our faces in public and go, we're giving it again, guys. Here we are. And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you.
Like, I really am. And there's so much that you held in all this time over the last 15 years. We've come to this full circle moment of, Erin's now 35. We're in this a beautiful relationship we have as a mom and daughter. I'm just so honored that you're in business with me and we're doing this show and everything. And I just want to be here like right now, just to celebrate you, to celebrate your message. And for everyone listening today, just to know that healing is possible. Like, it's here. Erin's done it. I've done it. All the things that we've gone through in our life, you will make it to that other side. But life is this forever journey. There's no beginning and end. There's just lessons along the way. So, Erin, do you have any sort of closing thoughts for this, babe?
I think what you said is beautiful, but I'll just bookend it and just close it there, that if you're struggling with anxiety or panic, anything like that, just trust me when I say that you are not alone, and that, like what you said, mom, you can heal, you can come back to yourself, and just really, really, really learn to trust yourself, and really learn to, yeah, just evolve on this journey, because life is not this linear path. It's this ebb and flow, and it's this opportunity to just become a better version of yourself each and every single day, with no end destination. It's just every day, becoming 1% better every single day. And I think that I just want people to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if anyone wants to reach out, please, I would love to connect with you. If you want to reach out to me directly on Instagram, you can reach out. It's at Erin Weatherby. Yeah, I think that
And
was
that's such a generous gift. And I believe that that is all of our obligation, is to share the wisdom that we've acquired through all of the lessons and the things that come at us, because life is not a bowl of cherries all the time. There's just so many ways of looking at things, and Erin could have gone to, sure, medication, or he could have gone to quit kind food. We could have maybe not, it could have just been Kelly's Bake Shop with just Kelly and no Erin, because Erin might have said, screw you, mom, I ain't working with you, or whatever, right? Like, there's so many ways that life could have unfolded, but Erin chose to say, screw it, man, I'm going right through, and I'm going to get to that other side of giving me this beautiful grace and space. This self-love, and I actually, I'm going to reword it because I don't like even using the word self-love. So forget I even said that. It's just this love that we have and compassion that we have and forgiveness that we have for all the things that we do and and uh, and and the the things that we create for ourselves, things that are crazy and for someone else to look at it, you could go, "Oh, like what? You're going through that?" There's this opportunity for us to just have that compassion is a better word than self-love. The compassion we can have for ourselves, for our soul, that is just here for such a temporary time to experience this world. So, I don't know, I think that we could wind this down now. What do you think, sweetheart?
I completely agree. Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Kelly and Erin Show. It's very vulnerable, very real, and something I really have not shared with many people. There's only about a handful of people that know all this stuff. Yeah, I just hope that you can learn something, hear something, and yeah, until next time.
We love you guys. Thank you.